All righty. Get ready to start here. Attention, please. Okay. Well, welcome to the Humanist Society, everybody, and good morning. All righty, let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All righty. Awesome. Well, again, thanks for coming out. We are your secular oasis here in the Valley. I'm your president and host, Chris Wojno, and today's events are brought to you by you, all of our awesome members and donors. You all keep this place alive. You keep our mission going, and I thank you so much for that because you give us the opportunity to make a real difference in this world. And I'm not just saying that, we are making a change in people's lives, a change in the attitude that we need to have in this country worldwide, in this country and worldwide. Also, thanks so much to our volunteers who help make that happen. This isn't a one-person band. We need a lot of people to help make that difference, and hopefully you can join us and join our volunteering team to help make that difference. But again, so how do you like breakfast? Breakfast pretty good? Yeah. Thank you to Breakfast Crew. I do apologize. I was grocery shopping yesterday. I came in a little late, and they had to do without a lot of stuff until I got here, so I do apologize for that. But thanks again for the Breakfast Crew for putting together so quickly and covering for my mistake. Anyway, so if you'd like to become a member, you can talk to Elizabeth after the event. We'd love to have you on the team here and as a member of this great organization and awesome organization. We love your support, so please do consider that. Anybody here for the very first time? Raise your hand. Awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome. Thanks for giving us a shot, and hopefully you like it. You come back, and you have a lot more fun in the future, and we help improve your lives, and you become part of our community. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Anybody here have a cell phone? Nobody, huh? Wow. Well, if you could, please silence it, mute it, destroy it. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Keep it. So please do silence your cell phone. Anybody here have a pin for the first time? Anybody need pins? So we have our pin program here, which is this little happy humanist symbol. When you become a member, you should get one. If you don't have one, we can see James Osborne. Is he here? James Osborne is not here. Sorry about that. We'll get him next time. All right, we're going to jump into the announcements here. Richard, would you please come on?
Howdy, howdy. So, hey, we have a tradition here that every Sunday meeting that we have a group of people that go out to lunch afterwards, and we especially like newcomers to come with us. We have just wide open conversations and a lot of fun talk. In fact, we have to have our own back room because some of our conversations are the kind of conversations that the rest of the restaurant does not want to hear. And we have our own waitress for that very reason as well. She's been putting up with us for a long time, and she just smiles and laughs and goes the other way. And we sometimes she actually get into the conversation. Anyway, our reservation is at the Mesa Community Restaurant. It's around the corner on Country Club, and the reservation is at noon. We have an entire room to ourselves, like I said, and our speaker today is going to be joining us for lunch. And I'm sure quite a few of you will want to pepper him with a whole lot more questions. When I already warned him that might happen, and he's excited about that. So please feel free to join us after the meeting. If you're not really sure how to get there, if you can't find it, if you don't have a smartphone, whatever, you can contact me, come up and find me. I'll be up here somewhere wandering around, and I'll give you directions on how to get there. And again, it's the Mesa Community Restaurant, so those who have a smartphone, you can look it up pretty easily, and the reservations are at noon. And it doesn't really make any difference how much food you ate for breakfast, because they're perfectly fine with people coming in and having iced tea or coffee. And we do quite frequently have people that do that as well. So feel free to come, and even if you're not going to gorge yourself again the second time in one day, you can have some great conversation, and we do, believe me, right? We have some great conversations. All right, that's it.
Cool, thanks Richard. We'll see you at lunch. Well, I won't, but you will. I got a board meeting. That's my excuse. I'd rather be at lunch. Anyway, we are looking for a historian to help us keep track of all the cool stuff we're doing. If you're interested in writing some stories for our newsletters, you want to take some pictures and keep track of all the events we're doing, love to have your help on that. Please come see me after the meeting. Yeah, I like your spirit. Good time. We're also looking for someone to help us do yard care. Do you know how to use a lawnmower? Oh, okay, you're done. Great. That was quick. So yeah, if you know how to use a lawnmower or a weed whacker and you want to help us keep the children's yard neat and tidy, we'd love to have your help with that. So please come see me after the meeting. Could use somebody after Bill Oliphant moved up to Utah. Very sad, but hopefully he's okay up there. But he'll come back. He'll probably visit us once in a while just to say hi. We do have some open board positions. I think we have some people running for program director. But we could use some help with property management. So if you'd like to help keep this building up to shape, see, I love this kid's attitude. Awesome. Thanks, Rowan. Well, that's a good way to burn out, but that's my problem. Anyway, so I'd love to have your help. Anybody very interested in helping us with either of those board positions or any board position you can run for, but we're looking to fill a vacancy in the property director. Anybody? Alrighty, well, if you change your mind, come up and see me. We could really use your help on that. This place is amazing, and we'd like to make sure that it stays that way. We are having our big Flying Spaghetti Monster dinner on October the 13th. If you're not registered, please do go buy your tickets so we can get an accurate head count of how many people are coming. Please do dress up as a pirate or talk like a pirate, because I have purchased 2 bottles of Plantation Barbados rum that you can win. Because if you dress like a pirate or you talk like a pirate, by Davy's Locker you'll drink like a pirate. So please do dress up. We're going to have a little contest. We're going to have some other games. It is one of our fundraisers. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bring the kids. It's going to be very friendly. Bring something to drink, snacks to share. We'd love to have you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And do dress up, because that's like half the fun right there. Yeah, any questions about Flying Spaghetti Monster dinner? We could use some greeters, so if you see Jeannie Devine, she'll talk about that in a second. Actually, if you want to come up, we can put that right there. We are also looking for donations. If you want to bring in some gift cards, like $10, $15 gift cards just to use as prizes. We could use a whole bunch of those. Any little things that you buy at like the dollar store, we could use as kind of like, prizes that aren't quite the grand prize, but something nice to kind of walk away with. We could use some of those as well. So just bring them on in at the next meeting. Again, the Flying Spaghetti Monster dinner is the 13th. We have one more Sunday speaker between now and then. Please bring them in. We'd love to have your donations. Thank you. Jeannie.
Oh, it's Jean. Well, we need greeters because we always have new people coming in, and it's really wonderful. So we need to have a few more people join our list of people who can be greeters. If we could have like 2 people commit to every Sunday, I'm talking about Sunday programs. So I have a sign-up list over here. Talk to me about it. I'll give you a little orientation of if you want to do the tour and learn a little bit about the history. And of course, you already know what you're doing here. People who come on a regular basis, this is cool because you get to meet new people. You have a chance to do it. So I'm asking you to come over and to sign up and be a greeter first or the second Sunday of the month whenever we do our programs.
Thanks, Gene. They let me do it, so should be good. That's actually kind of how I got started. So it's a really good way to meet people if you're looking to really get more relationships. You pretty much meet everybody. You say hi to everybody that's a current member, and you get to make friends with people who are just coming here for the first time. So, James Woods, would you please approach the front of the room? Sure. Safer for everybody. Okay. Good morning. Good morning.
I'm gonna bring you down a little bit, because I'm gonna reinforce what Chris said earlier. This place runs on you guys. We are a volunteer board. We are completely supported and sustained by our membership and our donations. As many of you may know, we've been having an issue with vandalism of our center. And unfortunately, we had the custom window up front is cracked. And it's gonna cost about $2,000, give or take, to replace. And our our insurance company is starting to drop us if we file another insurance claim. So, as generosity and community are two of the key humanist values, I'm here to ask you this morning. I think with this group, we can raise half of that this morning. So, I will start. I will pledge in front of all of you as a witness. I will pledge $100 toward that 1,000. Who's going to join me today?
I'll do that.
Here you go.
Thank you very much. Who else?
We've got 600, 700, are you all pledging 100?
Yeah.
I think we've
Thank you very much.
raised it.
Excellent. Well, if we've already got 1,000, can we do the whole 2? Come on.
Okay, everybody who's pledged, can you like?
Yeah, please raise your hand, and either my, yeah, one of the other, either Chris or.
Can you count the hands?
No, I cannot.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You gotta write this down.
Yeah, please, hands in the air. Thank you so much. I knew this community would come together and something that this important. We take pride in this center. We want to make sure it's nice and welcoming for everyone, and thank you so much. Please, just
You got Jennifer, Mike, Jim.
You get Jim up here.
I'm so glad I did the greeter program with my note.
yes. And again, this organization does run on 2 things: money and volunteers. Please join us and get involved. Yeah. And yes, and Chris does a lot around here. Let's give Chris another round of applause.
Chris, is that shatterproof glass?
We are working on figuring out a solution to try and make that
Make like a
as.
chicken wire screen kind of thing that you can put up over the window. It's not like bars, you can see out of it, but, so we're looking into something like that.
Think of like the safety glass you'd see at a high school. But we do want to be welcoming and aesthetically pleasing. That is a concern. This is taking a while. I am hoping because of the length of time it's taken, there's a ton of people donating. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. That's why I love this group.
What have you got, Chris?
No, you can, whatever you
Chris, what did you end up with?
we only got a little bit in cash, and then there's a couple checks coming. But I think we're probably going to make it. It seems like 15 people. I think we have 20 people on this list, so that we may have made it. Sandy, thank you much. Thank you so much, Sandy. All right. Awesome. I can't thank you all enough. I mean, it's amazing what you all have done for us, and I'm so proud to be able to stand here in front of you today and tell you how much we do, and that we're working for you and making sure that every day we're proud of what we do here, and that we're going to make you proud. So thank you so much. Round of applause for everybody here.
Would you like me to pass around the envelope? Yeah, if people
Sure.
want to put cash or checks in
Sure.
there?
I appreciate that. Again, you don't have to $100, whatever you can, just to kind of get that window fixed up, because insurance. I don't want to name them, but.
Put money in, don't forget that.
Can you take credit cards today?
I can. I did bring my little credit card gizmo. We can do that after the meeting if you have a credit card. I'll be available to do that. Thank you so much. Again, I'm just going to move on before I tear up. Thanks. Thank you, James.
And thank you all for your generosity. Seriously, this place would be going away if it wasn't for all of your involvement and commitment. Thank you again.
Alrighty, thank you so much. I got a couple announcements, and then we're gonna roll into something very special today. So we have Smart Recovery held here every night. I know that our speaker is very involved in Smart Recovery. You're not gonna come tomorrow night. You're gonna be out of here. All right, but bad time. That's okay. But we do Smart Recovery just to make sure that we've got that. Awesome. Michael was a founder. Thank you so much. It's a great program.
The AJ, the Humanists were the major people who put it together.
Yeah, it's just so nice to have a secular alternative to that, to support groups for treatment and addiction. We're also doing our very popular Let's Eat Geography. We didn't quite get to Qatar last time, but we're going to try again at a Mediterranean restaurant called the Princess Market Mediterranean.
No.
No?
Not true.
Sorry, I'm pulling this off the meetup page.
It has not been updated.
I don't have the right permissions to change it on Meetup for some reason, but we did Gabon, which is a country in West
Gabon.
Africa. We did that this past week, and we're going to Jollof King Restaurant.
Jollof King Restaurant.
I will fix the meetup today, so check it out. That's where we're going to have our lunch.
Alrighty, apologize. Jollof King. So if you don't know anything about that country, neither do I. Go and eat the food. So go ahead and head out there and enjoy it. It's going to be October 3rd at noon. It's going to be a midday lunch. Also that evening we have TED Talks, so please do post your TED Talk videos from the TED.com website. And if you want to watch a video and share your thoughts on it, it's always a good way to kind of interact with other people. And you know, if there's some video that's thought-provoking and you want to have a discussion about it, that's the place to have it. That's why TED Talks exist. It's really fun. Come on down. It's going to be Wednesday, October 3rd at 7 at night, right here at the Humanist Community Center. We also have game night Saturday, October 6th from 6 p.m. until everybody just wanders off in the middle of the night. But it's a lot of fun. Bring your own board games, or we've got tons of board games here. Card games, dice games. So just come on by, bring the snack to share. It's a lot of fun, good way to meet new people. Let's see here, I already discussed Flying Spaghetti. Oh, you can buy your tickets online for the Flying Spaghetti Monster dinner at hsgp.org. Look for the Flying Spaghetti Monster event. Just let us know how many people are coming. It really helps us buy the right amount of food. So please do let us know if you're coming. Next Sunday's speaker is going to be Sarah Richardson on AZ Ed 101, the truth about education in Arizona. So why are our schools so underfunded? Why are our teachers working second and third jobs to supplement their living expenses? We wanted more funding for our schools, our teachers, our students. We realized we had to change the status quo. We had to understand the situation in order to do that. Learn the why behind the dry up in funding. At the next Sunday speaker event, it's going to be the 7th of October. Breakfast at 9 a.m., right, as usual, and the talk's going to start at 10 o'clock. We have a very special Humanist Minute, so I'm going to invite Pam and Jennifer up. I'm gonna pull up this sweatshirt.
All right, no dancing up here.
No?
Good morning. So today, for our Humanist Minute, we have some very important thank yous that we want to share. As most of you who attended the event for the Extraordinary Humanist Award Gala, you know what a wonderful event it is and how we had a chance to honor Hal and Doreen at the event. So I'm going to call some names, and I would ask that you all come up here. And Anita, I'm going to have you hands up.
Okay.
Anita, come on up. Elizabeth, Jetty, Vici, Teresa, Alex, Richard, Henry and Luann. Please all make your way up here. So putting on an event like this takes a lot of us to play various roles, and everyone here that you see tonight was crucial to making the event such a wonderful occasion. So we have a little gift for you. I will say real briefly that Henry and Luann were our poetry readers and did an amazing job, and Hal and Doreen loved that. The sound system worked because of what Alex and can I say Carol too, also really helped putting it together. Anita and Kathy, who is not here right now, were making calls to invite people to the event. Elizabeth and Jetty and Teresa were our registration ladies who made sure everyone got checked in. Richard was hugely instrumental in bringing people to the event and helping us uncover phone numbers, which turned out to be a really big deal. Vici helped out beforehand along with Roy. I didn't see Roy here. Did I miss him? So, and Roy also helped with just getting all the name tags together and all the details that made the event a success. So can you please help me give a huge round of applause, because it's all of you that made it successful. Thank you very much. Did I give you, I didn't, oh my goodness. Sorry. I have cards for you and I didn't hand them up. Sorry, I read them and all right, and Alex and Carol, thank you very much. Another round of applause. Thank you very much. And then there's one more thing.
Are we done?
You're done. And then finally, we want to call up Chris and Zenito.
I'm ready for my public trash.
Yeah. So.
You guys were naughty.
So Chris did an amazing job emceeing and being the master of ceremonies of the event. I mean, it was really, he pulled it all together and made it an amazing event, and we couldn't have asked for anyone better to do that. So thank you.
He did.
He did, didn't he? And then I wanted to really acknowledge Zenito, because it was really Zenito's idea that we actually did this. If I can briefly share that when Ann Mardick died and we had the memorial, it was Zenito who recognized that it would really be nice that we recognize people while they're still here and they get a chance to hear it, and it was his brainchild that really made all of it happen and allowed Jennifer and me to take the idea and run with it. So thank you for creating the idea in the first place.
Of course, the Humanist Society and the Humanist Community Center would absolutely not have been possible without the help of a lot of people. And first and foremost, of course, were the donors who essentially dug deep into their pocket and have continued to give to this organization very generously, both of their time and talent and also their treasure, of course. So they're not with us today. I'm sorry they're not here. So we could thank them yet again. But Helen, Doreen, Saperstein were obviously the ones that made it all possible. Along the way, of course, there have been many others, and I hope in due course we will continue to recognize the efforts of all those who provide extraordinary support to this organization. So thanks to all of you, and I'm pleased that I was a part of it. Oh, those of you who were at the event, or even those of you who were not, there is a guest book up here that you can write a thank you note to the Sapersteins. And if you have not already done so, or even if you have already, write something on this before you leave today, please. It's up here. Jennifer's got a variety of colored pens over there that you can use. They're up here already, right next to the guest book. Please write a message.
Pam.
I had hoped that we would take this around to the tables, but for some reason we didn't get around to it during the event. But we have another opportunity to do that, and I'm sure they would appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
Thanks again to all our volunteers. Thank you so much.
Hi, I just have one more quick thing. One of the things we did was we made some very special, unique centerpieces for the tables, and we sold them, most of them, for $100 each. They're each a unique work of art, and we have 3 left. So they're on the back table. If you're interested, you can look at them. I'm considering making some more, maybe for the solstice, the winter solstice event. So just take a look at that, and if anybody wants to say a kind word to Hal and Doreen, the book's up here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Alrighty, well, sorry we had some long announcements today, but we had a lot to get through. But now it's time for the main event. I'd like to invite Pam back up to introduce our speaker. And I will just stall by saying you really should sign this guest book. It's something nice for the Sapersteins that they can come back and read so they can remember the event and really know how much we appreciate their involvement in our community.
Chris, I just want to know where the envelope is.
Okay, Alex has the envelope. It's okay. I trust you. Oh, good. Alrighty.
Thank you. So today we are very honored and excited to have our presenter today. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Michael Werner is president of the Humanist Foundation, past president of the American Humanist Association, adjunct faculty member of the Humanist Institute. He has taught widely at major universities. He was one of the founders of the Smart Recovery, a self-management and recovery training program for addictions. He was in the chemical business and now lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, which he's got some information.
My hometown.
Oh, Alex's hometown, and has some stories of how he survived the hurricane and all the water. He is also the past board member of the Humanists and Freethinkers of Cape Fear. And today he's going to share with us some information from his book, What Can You Believe In When You Don't Believe in God? He's going to help answer some questions like, what is true? How shall we live our lives? And how do I find my purpose, meaning, and joy? And please help me welcome Mike Werner.
Greetings from Wilmington, North Carolina, and the Humanists and Freethinkers of Cape Fear. I'm lucky to get out, as you can imagine. I survived it. Actually, our house is right on the water, right dead center where the hurricane hit. And I'm sure, let me ask you, I always do this. How many people are from Phoenix originally? About 6. That's the most I've asked this question everywhere I've gone and speaking in the United States. In Wilmington, there was 0. In most of, even smaller communities, it's no more than 2 or 3. We are a highly mobile, alienated, frankly, society. And that's why wonderful groups like this are so important. It's important to have an intentional community of like-minded people that love and support each other. And I highly applaud this community of reason and compassion. Thank you for having me here. I lived through the hurricane, but in North Carolina, it's against the law to have any science, believe it or not, on global climate change, or to even mention it, climate change, in any document. It's illegal to use it as a basis for coastal communities to plan their beach things, believe it or not. And you see what we have. But I come to Arizona this morning, I turned on the TV, and I see the debate between the two people, the Republican and Democrat, on the supervisor of schools for Arizona, and I hear the most outrageous things, like I would in North Carolina. It's the same thing. We're up against a lot. And our voice of reason is so important today. I don't need to tell you. And our voice can make a difference. It does make a difference. I can't tell you, in a small community like Wilmington, we really make a change. When I was up in Chicago, I couldn't, I was a pebble in a big sea. But down there, we really can make changes. And by the way, that reminds me, it's so nice to see some people I have known for years, Susan and Alex and Chris Appleton. Where's Chris? Chris, I knew him for 20 years up in Chicago, where he was the treasurer up there. But until, of course, the embezzlement had happened. But put that in the past. Don't worry about that.
He's kidding.
I what? No, it's so neat to see people I've known all over the country. But a couple pieces of business, first of all. First of all, I've got a book out, What Can You Believe If You Don't Believe in God? And you can get it on Amazon, both in paperback and Kindle form, $16 or $10. I was going to bring some books, but because of the storm, the only thing I was able to bring was some of my pre-publication copies, which have about 20 errors and a typo errors, including the title, believe it or not. But I brought a few copies if you want a sale price of $10 on that. So those are available. The other piece of business I have is that I am president of the Humanist Foundation. The foundation is think of it as we try to plan for the long term to promote humanism long term, and the American Humanist Association in particular. It's a way you can gain immortality. It's one of the few ways humanists can gain immortality. But also, we protect the funds long term and provide monies to the AHA. We actually own the building at this time right now. We were just able to purchase. And frankly, we've actually saved the AHA 3 times during very hard times. That's why you need that buffer, and it's so important. If you've got a will, I ask you to consider putting just 5% or something. Remember, most monies you leave your children, they're gone within 2 generations. But this is some way that you can speak to your values, those most important things. We also do annuities, much higher, usually a minimum of 5 up to 8% interest rates. Then any money left over goes to AHA, but there's no sales fees or anything else. So if you're interested in annuities or putting in your will, I've got some brochures here. I'd really like anybody to take these and think about putting this in your will. It's a way that you can make your highest values live on. But at any rate, every year I have a chance to teach at the Coastal Christian High School. Why they put me there, they have 2 apologetics group, and I figure that I think that, well, they're going to bring the worst in there, and I am, and I get more and more strident every time, and they keep asking me back. So, but it's interesting because it's about one third. 1/3 of the kids are like this. You're never going to reach them. 1/3 are kind of open-minded, and 1/3 are actually right close to being where we are as humanists. But you know what holds them back? It's not the belief in God. is what I'm going to be talking about here today. They're concerned that if they don't believe in God, there's nothing to believe in. And all they need to know is our story. I encourage this group in particular to think about that. How can you reach out and explain that we have this wonderful life stance that can help people? I'm going to talk about that. But in my own case, I grew up in an area that was so Catholic that I never met anyone or didn't even know anyone that wasn't Catholic. One day, a Protestant family moved in down the street, which was to me just as far as I was concerned, saying they were pagans to me. Because you see, my vision of them came from the movie with the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston. You remember when he came down from the mountain and there was this wild orgy taking place around a golden calf? Remember that? So, which actually, I look at that party, it looks like a pretty damn cool party to me. But even though I gave, and I actually walked on the other side of the street around the neighbor's house because I was afraid of them. But I noticed they always kept their drapes drawn in the living room. And I just knew that they had a golden calf in there. Seriously, you're young kids, aren't you? You think of this stuff. But I just couldn't figure out how they got how could they afford the gold when they were just as dirt poor as we were? But my deconversion came at about the age of about 10 or 11. I had a lot of problems in my neighborhood. I grew up in a very rough area. And I was suffering. And I was actually sitting in the back of church. And I was praying to a supposed caring God to relieve my sufferings. But I received no response. It suddenly occurred to me that I didn't know a damn thing that I was talking about, but neither did anyone else. I saw fault lines in all my beliefs, from the notion of the Trinity to the idea of having ungrounded faith, and most important, to the problem of evil in the world. I made a vow then to learn the truth no matter what, and if it led to hell, so be it. But I would commit myself to seeking the truth no matter where it led me. And in the Catholic Church, if you even doubt, it's a mortal sin and you can't go to hell. So it was a courageous thing at that time. But instinctively, I knew that the quest would take years. It did indeed take a long time and with persistent effort. I was really not comfortable with my beliefs until I was almost 40. Now I look around, and now, by the way, you can't shut me up on all this stuff. But now I look around and I see, according to the 2016 Pew Religious Landscape Study, that those that call themselves non-religious are the largest and fastest growing demographic segment of our society. About 25% of all the population in the United States are religious nuns. That is more than all the Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, and Unitarians combined. Religious nuns now are larger than Catholics. One of the studies recently just came out said it's gone up from 25 to 34%. Among young adults aged 18 to 29, the millennials, 39% are religiously unaffiliated. Now, some of those are spiritual but not religious. And atheists directly account between 3 and 8% of the population, and another 6% are agnostic. But interestingly, it depends how you pose the question. If you ask, do you believe in God? Anywhere from 12 to 25% say they don't. It appears that the word atheist has a negative connotation that keeps people from expressing their real views on the supernatural. In Europe, the joke is that there are only 3 times that people go to church anymore. And 2 of them they're carried in. matching, and dispatching. There are more humanist celebrant weddings in Great Britain than religious ones, and in Ireland, it takes over a year to become a humanist celebrant. Today, recently a poll was done. Only 3% of the millennials identify with the Church of England in England. 3%. How can people actually believe, though, literally, in the Bible about its talking snakes, satyrs, unicorns, zombies, witches, and wizards? How can people believe in a Bible that is opposed to masturbation, shrimp, and gays, but finds rape, slavery, and genocide okay? How do Mormons believe a con man spoke to an angel that made him head of a religion, allowing him to have many wives? It sounds a little suspicious to me. How do people today give all their life savings, including a niece of mine, to ministers who amass tens of millions of dollars in luxury homes and cars and jets? All the scientific studies show that religious people are frankly less intelligent, less educated, more anti-science, more attracted to authoritarian figures, more prone to racism, more fearful, more homophobic, more misogynist thinking, and higher rates of incarceration. Now, all I've said so far, in a way, is kind of bullshit. It's true, but it's possibly distortive. Not because it's not true, but because this pattern of focus and thinking leads to a smug, self-congratulatory self-righteousness and certainty of our own morality. And it can be an excuse for ending the quest just when the quest needs to begin. Just because we know one thing doesn't mean that we have it all figured out and we become a one-trick pony. Atheism is what I don't believe. What I do believe, Socrates said there are only two main questions in life. What is true, and how do I live my life? Nietzsche asked, where is God? Not out of some triumphal conclusion, but as a cry to the answers of what will replace him. Max Weber, one of the founders of the modern science of sociology, noted the fate of our times is characterized by rationalization and intellectualization, and above all, a disenchantment with the world. He was concerned with the loss of religion. People would lose an emotional connection with the world. And then, in the words of Kenneth Clark, exhaustion and a feeling of hopelessness which can overtake people even with a high degree of material prosperity would result. Sound familiar? I have seen too many people who found one great truth, that God doesn't exist, and stopped their search there. I have seen those that don't have a vital center to their lives and fall into a nihilistic disenchantment. The father of modern social science, Emil Durkheim, coined the term anomie to describe the condition in which a society provides little moral guidance to individuals. It is the breakdown of social bonds between an individual and community. In our movement, we have nice sayings like good without God, or just be good, or no gods and no masters, that simplify and are true, but again, they can mislead how really difficult moral decision making is to make. I hear secular notables like Sam Harris and Michael Sherman appallingly say that science tells us everything we need to know. Or Peter Singer and Joshua Bell dogmatically tell us that utilitarianism is the only way, and it's a complete moral theory. How many of us can explain to someone what the ultimate goal of morality is and how to achieve it? How should we make moral decisions? What undergirds secular morality, or is it all just relative? Some would see science answering everything we need to know, ignoring all the tools that the humanities have given us. But then we see that there are other sources of knowledge. Democracy and the concept of human rights are gifts from history and civilization. Philosophy gives us tools for critical thinking and a conceptual framework to evaluate the world. Literature and art heighten our awareness about what values are important. Again, we can see rather shallow answers by some on our part, and we can laugh at all of those who say that morality comes from the Ten Commandments and knowledge from the Bible. But have you studied these fundamental questions? And do you have confidence in your answers? Do you have an elevator speech? Can you answer what grounds knowledge, and in particular science? What do our foundations stand on, if anything? Can you answer Socrates' great question of how shall we best live? Do you still feel the excitement that comes from challenging your old ideas? Carl Sagan said, "We make the world significant by the courage of our questions and the depth of our answers." How well are we doing on both the courage and the depth? A deep search shows distressingly to some that there is no certainty, no absolute foundations on any knowledge, no absolute moral theory, no single moral goal, no absolute meaning in life, no one right way to live our lives. All scientific knowledge ends up being tentative, fallible, and probabilistic. Knowledge emerges from a combination of many methods laced together in a whole web of belief. Regarding ethics, while there is no one moral theory that's complete, we find that secular morality is more like painting a painting with many hues and colors. It is without mathematical formula like rationality. Like finding truth, it requires a whole garage of tools, none complete, none without problems. We also find that ethical dilemmas are inherent in all of our decisions, as all of our highest values are in radical conflict with each other. Every value we have has downsides and has trade-offs. It is what Isaiah Berlin, who I think is one of the greatest philosophers of the 20th century, said. He called it a tragic liberalism. We also find, because he calls it tragic because there is no rational way to decide which of our high values is most important. And they are all in radical conflict with each other. We also find that there's no one ethical goal we have. We end up with multiple goals, multiple foundations, multiple moral tools. Does all this mean that secular knowledge and morality is hopelessly adrift? Nothing more than one's choices? Does it say that nihilism is correct? No, it does not. We don't need certainty to gain knowledge. The world is indeed relative, but it's not arbitrary. Also, we don't need absolute ethical paths and goals to make good, confident decisions for the betterment of ourselves, others, and the biosphere. We just need to do the best we can with what is an inherently messy situation. Many people, if most, don't like messy, ambiguous situations, but that's what happens, and that's what we have. We're not helpless, we're just challenged. And by the way, many studies have been done recently. One of the major differences between liberals and conservatives, and this is cross-culturally, even with hunter-gatherer tribes, but you can pretty well predict who is a liberal or conservative by how frightened they are, what their fear response is, how big their amygdala is, to an 86% chance of that probability. That's pretty good. A century ago, the founders of modern-day humanism were much more focused on discovering the best ways to live a secular life. They had even more problems with the religious right, but put more of their efforts into looking inward rather than outward. Betterment of society, character, and honor were dominant concerns a century ago for the humanists. Today, criticizing religion consumes way too much of our efforts. Why humanism? Because we want to devote our lives to profound ideals. We want to answer the fundamental questions of existence. We are looking for passionate commitments beyond our own needs. We are looking for ideals born of conscious reflection in the glaring light of knowledge. As a progressive educator, John Dewey wrote, we are looking for those ideals and ends so inclusive that they unify the self. Religion exists because people want a whole integrated story of life. We want a North Star to guide us. We want to structure our lives around those profound ideals. As the philosopher George Santayana said, to feel beauty is a better thing than to understand how we come to feel it. To have imagination and taste, to love the best, to be carried to the contemplation of nature, to a, and this is the important phrase, a vivid faith in the ideal. All this and more is a great deal more than any science can hope for. When Santayana refers to a vivid faith in the ideal, he is talking about humanism. Humanism asks us to search for and commit ourselves to our highest ideals, our noblest sentiments, our greatest values, and what civilization and science say matters most. Humanism is a blend of the best of the Enlightenment and the Romantic traditions, saying that this world is all and enough. It is a whole worldview, an open-ended, evolving life stance, where Bertrand Russell described the good life as that which is guided by reason and motivated by love. This is what those students at Carolina Christian High School are looking for. They're not afraid of not believing in God. They're afraid that they don't have any answers beyond that. But you know what? There is a hunger out there. Our hearts long for an integrated whole view of life, where our ideals match reality. We long for a vital center to our lives that both grounds us and inspires us, a vision of grander authenticity to our lives, not just smaller truths. All of us long for an evocative whole story and a higher vision that lifts our hearts, moves our society, and pushes us towards higher meanings and ennobles our lives. Some may find that integrated story is already with us in the balanced humanist secular life of here and now, as we accept the exhilarating challenge of a responsible truth for truth and meaning. The humanist life is not based on our beliefs, but our values. These values encompass open-minded critical thinking, science, justice, freedom, tolerance, democracy, reason, compassion, human rights, all people's inherent worth and dignity, and the importance of human flourishing. All of these are just some of the values that hold our whole web of belief together. But we can't afford the luxury of just critiquing religion. We must tell our alternative story to those children at the Coastal Christian High School, for example, so that anyone contemplating change will know that a non-religious worldview can support them, inspire, and comfort them. That knowledge of science, while tentative, is surely firmer than blind faith. That the exhilaration of focusing on the here and now is more meaningful than otherworldliness. That hope and love are certainly better than hate and divisiveness. That compassion and responsibility can be balanced with self-interest and freedom. That service to others may be our highest calling. The ambiguity inherent in all of our value, ethical, political choices need not paralyze us, but it doesn't make it even more important that we reflectively consider all of our choices. Humanist ethics derives its power from affirming all people's inherent worth and dignity. It realizes that if justice is to be given, only we can give it. If love is to be given, only we have this power in this moment, in this hour. Real suffering exists, and only we can bind the wounds. This world certainly is all enough to fill us with joy, wonder, and hope, and awe, and that is our natural birthright. Now is our time Now is our chance to move society toward reason and the good life. Now is our time to move society out of the dark ages of theocratic and ideological control toward human fulfillment. We cannot falter in the face of certain hostility or our own inherent ambiguity. Neither can we stand by hoping for a secular society to automatically shape itself. It won't. It is our duty to show that a secular world need not end in anarchy or nihilism. It is our obligation to demonstrate that we can build communities that embrace a progressive, ethical, humanist worldview of human and world good. And I thank you.
We have some great time to answer some questions or any comments, so please raise your hand so I can get the microphone to you.
Yes, back there.
Hello, I'm Ron. I love the vision of where you see us going and the humanist values and the communities, but have you seen any on-the-ground actions of building these types of communities, and what have you seen be successful?
I see one right here. But remember, think about it this way. In Europe, they already have their humanist communities. Most people in Europe would still live within 50 miles of where they were raised. Remember I asked you, where are you from? We have this increasingly alienated mobile society. And if I can pan evangelicals, etc. But one thing I won't is because the evangelical churches, they provide community. I'm sure, like my one brother-in-law, would start raiding that if they can have some community to kind of hold them together. But when you go to Europe, the community is a humanist community because they've been imbued with the Enlightenment values for so long. We don't have that here. We have a different situation. And that's why the secular society, it's moving to society. We have to be careful. Yeah, we say it's all wonderful, but the good humanist society is not necessarily going to come out of that. It's our job.
When I heard the title of your talk, of your excellent talk, by the way, what can we believe if we can't believe in God? Well, the thing that comes to my mind is that we can believe in the human spirit. And I think that your talk reflected that in many ways.
Thank you.
We're just overwhelmed.
I know. This is unusual. So can you tell us a little bit about humanist communities across the country? I mean, we are so fortunate to have an actual physical center, and we do so many things here, and I'm curious about what else.
Well, this is an excellent humanist community here. You're lucky to have a physical space and everything. Like in Humanist and Freethinkers in Cape Fear and Wilmington, we've had to be moving around different places for one reason or another. And the space we got right now is terrible. And that space really makes a difference. It's hard. It's kind of hard to hold it together. You've done a great job. You can do that. I don't know where we're going with this, but I underline the word intentional. Intentional community means that we're all disparate people coming together, but we're intentionally going to donate $100 today to the window. That speaks of the intentionality we have to do. It means that we got to give up something of ourselves to make that community happen, and in love and kindness and reason. There's over 200 humanist chapters, and I've spoken at a lot of them, and they were variety from just little and everything else. But what's great about it, by the way, is I always see the same type of people. People are, most of which are out there actually in the community doing something. You know, in our community, I can name every single person is doing something. Now maybe they're working at the homeless shelter, or but they're all doing something. Not, it's deed, not creed. They're going to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And I'm sure if I went around this community, I'd see the same thing. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Kyle. And so in the presentation, you discussed what we can believe without God, and you gave some examples of some values. I was wondering if you could touch on the critique that some might have of how do you ground those, what do you ground those beliefs in, or that it doesn't have the same grounding that you would have with God as the basis for.
Well, that's why you got to read the book, because. And by the way, when I wrote my book, I wrote the book for my 20-year-old self. This is the stuff I wish I would have known when I was 20, and then spent decades studying and trying to make it easy for some young people. I also wrote it, even though I teach philosophy and I can do all the jargon. If you can't explain it to a plumber in 10 minutes, you probably don't know what you're talking about. And today there's frankly a lot of pretentiousness with language, obscurity, and that's what I try to do. I don't have a chapter on axiology. I say what matters. I try to make it simple, but not too simple, not dumb it down. This is not dumbed down. Peter Singer, the founder of the animal rights movement, said that the chapter on ethics is the clearest, most concise that he's seen. And then he disagreed with me about utilitarianism. But at least he said that, you know, I got it right there. And that's what I tried to do. I may have succeeded, maybe not. So that was my intent purpose, to write it for my 20-year-old self and for my grandchildren. Somebody asked me, how long did it take you to write it? My whole life. It's my life work.
Right here.
Yeah, I just want to say that was probably one of the most succinct and profound answers to the question of what humanism is I've heard yet.
Yes.
And thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Because that follows what I believe very well, and now I'm in my way in the world. How will your book, or do you have a curriculum or something like that that would help spread that in that kind of succinct and well-meaning way?
I've got in my book, I've got a bunch of the primers. I point out some of the primers of humanism. Every person here needs to have an elevator speech ready about what humanism is, and you need to practice it. You need to read, you know, if you read the Humanist Manifesto, I'm glad to see that you got it up here. You had it. But you should always have the Humanist Manifesto 3 up there. But
gave away the last one.
you gave away, but you should always have that. And in that first paragraph, just go, you should have that memorized and then put it in your own words. You should be able to say, well, here's what happened to me. You know, like those kids, they're trying to answer, well, what happens when we die? And I said, well, as far as we know, my little elevator speech is that when we die, our brains die, and with us, our personality dies. From everything scientifically know, that we died with that. But we live on in the memory of others and the good deeds that we do. And she goes, this girl goes, oh, like this. It was like, oh, it was like, I got an answer. You know? If somebody asks you, why should we believe in science? There is no absolute grounding for it. We believe in it because it works. It works in real life situations. What is ethics? Why do we ground our ethics? It's a multiple tools. Same with knowledge. The modern theory it's what's called pluralistic theory. We have a lot of tools. It's like going in a garage. If you go in a garage, you work on your car, you don't just have a hammer, a screwdriver, or a wrench. You have a whole bunch of tools. We need a whole bunch of tools. Not just science, not just rationality, not just intuition. You put these all together in the best way we can. Is it messy, like I said? Yeah. That's what we got, folks. But I got a list of really good, some of the good primers. I don't go into religion bashing in there or anything else. Lots of good books on that. I'm trying to say the next step. Frankly, it appalls me, some of the ignorance in our movement, certain quarters. It's the arrogance that, well, I don't believe in God, I know everything. Oh yeah? How do you know that?
Oh, what?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm an old psychology teacher, and I used to teach Kohlberg's theory of moral development. The first level of moral development is to be good to avoid pain. Second level, be good to get a reward. Those are the two levels of religion. Avoid hell, get to heaven. The two lowest levels of moral development. So when I'm talking about humanism, I explain the highest level, which is the same every time for every person. So you look at a crime and you see someone robbing someone else, and you think, oh, that guy's bad and that guy's good. That's not true. It's the same for everyone. Imagine you're watching your grandson getting robbed, and what do you want to do to the guy that's robbing him? Then imagine you're watching your grandson robbing someone. What do you want to do to the guy who's doing the robbing? If you have the same answer both times, you're at the highest level, and that's humanism.
Whoa.
One of the interesting things that comes about when you really study ethics too is that I mentioned in here, I didn't get to the answers, but the questions are, we have multiple moral goals. Always morality ethics is a question of how much do I do for myself versus others? And that's a dilemma. It's an ethical dilemma. I teach a course on ethical dilemmas. But then we've got also multiple goals. Well, okay, for people, how about humankind? But also for ourselves or others or the biosphere. So now we have three various things competing. And you know what? There's no right answer on all of those. How much do I do for myself versus the environment, for example? You know, there's no right answer, but there's consequences. Yes, sir, back there.
As soon as I get the mic, maybe I don't read a mic.
I trained him well.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but in the end, because I'm just trying to get people to eliminate the hate for people who are different ethnicities, different even religious beliefs. How do you, as an individual, get to the point where you're dealing with somebody who might be a nationalist or any other different thing? How do you get them to even talk to you and just eliminate
it's interesting
the hate?
you say that because I'm chairman of the Anti-Racism Commission in Wilmington, and I've got to deal with some super right-wingers, as you can imagine, down in the South. I mean, real hardcore racists, and they don't even know it. And some of them do know it, but they're proud of it. But I've got a chapter in my book, and I talk about it's one of the most important chapters to me. It's about this one concept that we have, a core ethical concept, and it's about the inherent worth and dignity of all people. Sometimes we say equal. What does that really mean? What is it, and where does it ground itself? It doesn't ground itself absolutely in philosophy. Again, it's pragmatic. It grounds itself in real life history, in the blood, the rivers of blood in history. When we don't follow that, that's when we end up with the ovens at Auschwitz, the killing fields in Cambodia, the slavery in the United States, the prison at Abu Ghraib. When we don't give inherent worth and dignity to each person. And I find it really, really, really difficult. But I think of it as envisioning, as this imagination. I think you have to imagine, because we're tribal animals, we'll also have a fear of the other. If you're out, remember evolution gave us two things, survival and reproduction. If you're in this small tribe out in the African savannah, and another tribe starts coming to you, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to maybe trade with you, that's going to be fine, or they're going to kill you, right? Take over your lands. And so the fear of the other, and especially if it's race, is very obvious, they're the other. But even there, you know, like in Israel, the Palestinians and the Jews look alike. you know, but they have these boundaries. So we have to envision actually seeing the inner humanity. That's what civilization teaches us. We have what E.O. Wilson calls a Paleolithic curse. The Paleolithic curse is all of these instinctual fear of the other, the tribalism, the sexism, the racism, all of this stuff. But that's what civilization, and certainly humanism, is about. It's elevating, trying to get past. All of us have that fear of the other. All of us have that racist instinct. It's getting by that. And it's envisioning, really seeing the other person and giving them inherent worth and dignity. Not because it's true, but because it works. It's not something it is, it's something we do.
I would like to expound on that when you can sit in a conversation with someone that you see as an opponent and see that inherent humanity in them, the fact that they're pursuing joy, running from suffering, the best way they know how, and it's conditioning and it's been brought on and you understand and see that, then you can approach that person and really connect with them at that level.
Exactly. To be blunt, I have a very hard problem with this. I'm a complete asshole sometimes. I am brutal. You know, I grew up a street thug, to be blunt, and fought every day of my life. And I could go back into the street thug moment in a heartbeat, physically or intellectually. So I always have to temper myself with that. But I'll tell you a story. One time when I was in business, I had a salesperson who came to me and said, I cannot work with this jerk. This guy is such an asshole and everything. Went on and on. And it had gone through 3 salesmen. Everybody hated this guy, but he was a big customer. We didn't want him to do. So I'll take care of it. I went in there. Sure enough, right off the bat, he's just a jerk. And you know what I did? I thought of love. Now this sounds weird, but I just thought of love. And I saw in his face love. And facial impression, you transmit your emotions so easily. And I didn't even know I was doing it. And all of a sudden, this guy stopped almost dead in his tracks. And he was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And he started treating me right. I realized that he was always a jerk, and that's why he gets self-validation. And I started treating him right. Make a long story short, I became his best friend, probably his only friend. Because I was thinking of love and the inherent worth and dignity. And it worked. And I realized, like you did, I realized that he was a very damaged person. I realized this is in Cleveland. His father was a Ukrainian immigrant that probably beat it was a very harsh childhood. And he was a victim of his childhood. But that was one of the surprising examples. I didn't even surprise. I just said, calm down. I was telling myself, I was ready to tell you, we don't need your business.
I really like what we've been talking about just now, about envisioning how the other person really is. As another
humanity in all of us.
Yeah. It's kind of Buddhist, and it's kind of Ram Dass, be here now. But I am curious, we didn't actually answer his question about, yes, we can project that in it. That was great that it worked in that particular instance for you. But don't you think that there are just some people who are so either blind or ignorant, or you're not going to be able to talk?
You're not going to. It's like in sales, people talk about the fact that the reality is 10% are going to hate you, 10% are going to love you, and 80% could give a damn. And that's the way people are.
Yeah, I have a question. The message you shared with us would seem to resonate particularly with marginalized minorities. Why has it been so difficult to sell it to minorities?
Believe me, I deal with this every day. I can tell you frankly, some of those racist people I got are the blacks in my community. And there's the battle going on, between in the African American community where I am about this. And I used to, shall we say, back away from it. I'm a white cis man, And now I call it out. It was interesting, there's a woman in my community who is just, she's a very damaged person. And that's where a lot of this comes from. And so I thought, I'm not gonna put up with it. But you know what? I love you and I want to work with you and I want to make it happen in this community. But you're gonna have to treat me with respect as well. And it's like a shock. By the way, now I'm the best friends with her. my wife, who is vice chair of the Democratic Party where I am, she has gotten in with her too. She doesn't put up with guff at all. And it's funny, now the two of us are big heroes and everything else. You can't let people run you over on these kinds of things. You have to stand up and tell the truth. Sometimes it doesn't work, you know. But if people I think really underline it, if your heart is right, people know it. You know what I'm saying? People know if your heart is right and what you're trying to do.
Right here.
Hi. My name's Ed. This is my first time coming here. I'm an ex-Mormon. I was a very devout Mormon, very dedicated to religion and everything. And I think one of the most harmful concepts that came from it was the doubt of your own self-worth. I think it's one of the things that kind of underpins all religion, is to question whether humanity itself has any worth. One of the things that you were talking about reminded me, the way I started getting into atheism was by listening to a couple of talks, and one of the biggest things that I questioned was morality. You know, how do we get morality? How do we get morality, sorry.
We all want to hear you.
How do we find morality? When I was in religion, you couldn't put a pin on it like this is a moral choice, or this is everything, especially, you know, when you mentioned Mormonism, it just made me laugh because, you know, the whole idea of polygamy, that, you know, it was kind of like whoever could live this principle would live it, and if a man had more authority within the church, he could pick out somebody else's wife and take her, you know. I was listening to this conversation by Matt Dillahunty. I don't know if you've heard him, but he was talking about morality, and one of the things that he put out was that morality, in his point of view, has to be based on well-being, on physical and mental well-being of the individual, and off of that we can base a lot of very clear ways to determine what is morality. So anyways, I just found your talk really interesting, and it brought a lot of ideas to my mind.
I lived in Utah. It was really interesting to me that, you know, if you're in a stake, you know, the church, the local stake, they will take care of you and everything else. But if you live next door and you're not a Mormon, you could die, you could starve, and they wouldn't give a damn. If you went in, right? And if you went into that stake and you said, oh, I have doubts about my sexuality, you are gone. You are gone. Or if you get pregnant, you know, it's this kind of superficial morality, you know. Ultimately, the goal is what Greeks called eudaimonia. It was originally translated as happiness, but happiness isn't really what a more modern translation is, flourishing. What we want is all of us to flourish. That's really our goal. We want our lives, not our lot, just our lives, everyone else around us. And this community can make a difference. And if you want to make a difference, then get that elevator speech, just hone it down so that you can talk to other people, study, and be able to transmit that to the community at large. You can make a difference here.
Yeah, we've got a successful Humanist community center here now, but we're the only one. The younger generation is mostly on our likeness, and they're not forming together. How do we get other organizations started in other communities?
It's a problem throughout the country. You know, it's the book Bowling Alone. You know, people have given up on community, given up on institutions, and it's not just, it's left and right. A lot of young people. We are a social animal, and we don't thrive well. We don't do well alone.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the answer is, how to do that.
I conduct a discussion group at a continuing care retirement community. So I've asked everybody to think about how they would identify themselves. And if somebody were to ask me for an identification, it would be secular humanist, social democrat. And what I fear is that 90% of them will shut down as soon as they hear those phrases.
Let me, I wanna. So, I'm from Denmark, and we are very secular, as you know.
85% atheists.
Yes, and we are also often considered the happiest people in the world. And I grew up with this as a social democrat, of course, yeah. And we always learn that one thing you just have to remember, you talk about simplicity, is treat your neighbor like yourself. It's that easy. And I have a very hard time with this religiosity or secularism versus sacred values in the United States, because we never talk about that where I come from.
There is a great movie. It's called A Royal Affair. Are you familiar?
Oh yeah, I saw it.
A Royal Affair is a movie. It's about how the Enlightenment and humanism took over in Denmark. Highly recommended. A Royal Affair.
Yeah.
And it talks about that
Yeah,
transition
yeah.
and how hard it was.
Yeah. I know, yeah. But I also understand Americans, because this is a very tough country to live in. And as long as we don't have social democracy or welfare capitalism here, well, we are just...
people adrift.
Yeah, anyway.
Thank you. All right, any last questions? Or, yeah.
I'd like to add that flourishing, that statement of well-being, when you're working with other people and trying to get them to change their mind or challenge their beliefs, it helps if you have that sense of, I'm doing this so that you can grow as a human being, right? So that, and have that in your heart as you're talking to them, really trying to help them, not prove your point.
Right, exactly. Before we end up, I know we've been here a long time. I don't want to take up too much time, but I got a little reading. Can you hold off just for a second? Let me read it. And Chris, you'll love this. This is from Kendall Gibbons. She was challenged. She was a humanist minister, UU minister, who was challenged by people, other ministers, about how can you be happy or anything good if you don't believe in God. So she said she got angry about midnight one night and wrote this, and then the next day talked about it. She says this: if there's no personality governing the universe and promising us love, justice, and meaning on some ontological bottom line, then it is all the more necessary for us, flawed and finite as we are, to give love, to enact justice, and building meaning here and now. Let there be only the cold whistling of the solar winds out to the ends of space. Let the past and future merge into a Mobius strip of endless, beginningless flow. Let there be no everlasting arms, no judgment, either indulgent or severe. Let there be nothing at all but what we have here in this moment, in this matrix of energy matter, in this movement, in the dance of entropy. It is enough, more than enough, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. It is marvelous enough, terrifying enough, mysterious enough, holy enough to fill me overflowing with wonder. The love I give and receive and withhold and reject is precious and a sacred gift, not to be held lightly, precisely because that's all there is, not out of an inexhaustible supply. The justice I do is not taken care of at the end of the day, like a parent picking up forgotten toys. Its opportunity is lost forever. and the suffering results is real suffering, not ultimately wiped away by a tender hand. How much sacred significance can we endure? Something about that reality is needless, gracious gift, the eternal surprise that there is anything instead of nothing, and that anything includes us in our awareness. Something about it makes us understand that we are painfully finite, that our time is limited, our individual abilities and understandings limited, and that we are parts and participants in a project that endures beyond us and is greater than ourselves. And something about that reality calls us, allures us, demands of us that we grow into all the wisdom and justice and love we are capable, because that is the fulfillment of the deepest reality of who we are. Look around you. Everywhere, on the sidewalks and byways of the world, women and men hunger for the meaning in life and find it in the ardent sod, the warmth of the sun and the breath of air, in the miracle of the setting sun and the altar of the ocean, in the struggle of now, salted with wishes and dreams and human love and understanding. The person who hungers for the meaning in life is you, is me, it's each of us. Whatever words we try in vain to say what fills us, what makes us all we are, and out of it emerges demandingly our inherent worth and dignity. Surely possible. Oh yes. For every day we wake and make it so. Every breath we take says that infallible yes to life. That is all we have, is all we know, it is our hunger and our fullness, and it is beyond all we need, enough. Thank you.
What a perfect way to end your presentation. So, Mike, we have a tradition here at the Humanist Center to mug our speakers.
Oh, you do?
So we'd like to officially mug you. Thank you.
I thought I was going to have to go through the bloody chicken ceremony.
Well, you never know around here. So remember that Mike will be joining you for lunch, so I hope that you chat with him now and join him all for lunch. And Chris, close us out.
Alrighty, thank you so much. How'd you like that? Was that amazing or what? Another round of applause for our speaker, everybody. Thank you so much, Michael. Again, just a quick recap. We do have a board meeting this afternoon. Right after this, if you want to stick around, see how the sausage is made, you can stick around. If you have donations, you want to do a credit card, I can do that up front here in just a few minutes. Otherwise, please do go to lunch. If you could help us do the desktop, yes, right, and the guest book. Please do sign the guest book for the Sapersteins if you have a chance. They would really appreciate it. Before you leave, if you could help us clean the tablecloths up and all the silverware and the plants and put them in the back there. Really help us clean up. Other than that, we'll see you at lunch. Live humanism every day. Thank you so much for coming by, everybody. Have a great day.
And I have some books here for sale.
Books for sale.
Also information about the Humanist Foundation.
Stay right here, I gotta go finish this up with
So I don't have to find out. That's not something I should have to do.
Do you want to stick around for the right up, yeah, where Humanist doctor. I didn't notice
Well, they hit us twice. The first rock broke the other, and then they